So most of the conversation around AI right now is dominated by one frame, and that is automation. Do the existing work faster and cheaper. And listen, that's real and that's happening, but I think the most consequential shift in AI is actually something else entirely. It's not automation, it's actually memory. For the first time in business history, the unstructured residue of your professional life, your calendar, your inbox, your messages, the conversations that used to disappear as time went on, can actually be operationalized, can be made queryable, turned into infrastructure that you can actually reason against. And here's the paradox in that. Some of the most talented people I know who have started building this kind of memory aren't becoming more robotic, they're actually becoming more relational, more present in their meetings, better at following up, better at remembering the human details. AI used this way isn't making us less human, it's actually removing the friction that was making us worse at being human. So today, we are going to build that together. By the end of this video, you will have your own AI-powered relationship memory, drawing from your calendar, your inbox, and your LinkedIn history. And the best part, it's much simpler to build than you think. Let's get into it. All right, so here is our game plan. So step one, we are going to extract your data. We'll pull your last 6 months of Google Calendar meetings, your Gmail history, and your LinkedIn messages. Step two, we are going to synthesize. We're going to take all of that raw data and turn it into one markdown file per person in your network. Think of it like AI writing a dossier on everyone you know based entirely on your actual history with them. Step three, we're going to query. We'll talk to it. I'm going to show you one query live, my favorite one, and then I'm going to show you what is possible with other queries that you can run on these dossiers of people you know. And we'll do all of this within Claude Cowork. Let's get started. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Sunny, and I'm a serial founder now on my 4th startup. I'm a former senior engineer at Bloomberg and Shopify, and currently an adjunct professor at Columbia Business School, where I teach tech and AI. Listen, I've been building software for more than 15 years, and I have made all the mistakes so you don't have to. And my goal for today's video, and really all of my videos, is to help you make sense of this fast evolving landscape around AI. Let's get started with our first step. So first things first, we actually need to give Cowork access to our Google Calendar and our Gmail. For LinkedIn, unfortunately, there is no native connector at the time of this recording. So for LinkedIn, we'll actually do a data export instead. But let's start with Google Calendar and Gmail. So the first thing we need to do is just make sure that they are connected via the connector. So I already have mine connected, but if you did not, all you would need to do is go to that plus sign, go to connectors, then click Add Connector. From here, you search for either Gmail or Google Calendar, and then you would hit the plus sign and then basically connect via logging in to your Google account. I don't have that plus sign because it is already connected. So for LinkedIn, I mentioned we're going to take a slightly different approach. What we're going to do is when we go to LinkedIn, we go to settings, we actually have to go to data privacy. And from there, we click download your data. You'll go ahead and download your archive, and I think in about 20 to 30 minutes, you should get an email with a link to download all of your data. So this is, I've already done it in advance. This is all the files you'll get from LinkedIn, but really the two most important files that we'll need is our connections file and our messages file, which contains a history of all of our connections as well as our messages. So once we have connected our Google Calendar, our Gmail, and we have access to these two LinkedIn files, we are good on step one. So before we move forward, I do want to address why we will be extracting all of this information from Google into local files instead of just having our system essentially run analysis on the connection. So here's the deal. You really don't want to jam too many steps into a single process. So to really be building durable and powerful systems, you really should be breaking things apart. I've seen so many people try to jam extraction, interpretation, judgment, and output all into one giant prompt and then wonder why the whole thing falls apart the second the inputs change. Good AI systems look like good software systems. Pipelines, clean steps, intermediate files you can actually inspect. The way things connect matters more than the parts themselves. So what we'll do is we'll be pulling the JSON first, because decomposing along the right seams, separating the mechanical work from the extraction work, from the interpretive work, that separation is what will make this system durable. Now, the people who internalize this concept will build systems that compound. The people who don't will build demos that will fall apart. All right, let's move on to the next step. So before we jump into the next step, what I've done is I've set up this new folder called Relationship Memory Demo, and I've actually pointed Claude to this specific folder. So that's very important first step. The next step that I want to do is I'm actually going to move these two files that I mentioned from my LinkedIn export into this folder. So the connection and messages spreadsheets. Now we're ready to move on to the actual step of pulling the information down. So first step that we're going to do is we'll paste in this prompt. And again, all of the prompts that I mentioned that I'll be using in this video will be made available to you in one of the links below. So what we're going to do is first grab all the events from my Google Calendar. So we're going to say pull all events from my Google Calendar over the past 6 months. I'll put a single JSON file that'll follow the structured format. Remember, the structured format is very, very important because it is how the AI will be able to traverse through all of the output and put together a good synthesis. All right, so let's see what it comes back with on the other side. So it was able to pull stuff from my calendar. We have it here. So now let's move on to the next step, which is the Gmail step. So very similar prompt here. We're gonna pull my emails from the last 6 months. It'll save down to gmail.json and follow a similar process, a similar structure here. Let's see what it comes back with on the other side. So we now have all of my Gmail information. You see that it scanned through all of these threads. The last step that we need to do is we need to run the same exact thing, except instead of linking to an external service, we're going to analyze these two CSV files that now exist in this folder. But again, putting it in that same structured format, like we do with the calendar export and the Gmail export. Great. Great. So now we have our LinkedIn.json file was able to parse through those two CSVs. We're going to run this final prompt in this step. And really what it's going to do is just going to count all the records, the date ranges, and just really serve as a quick sanity check for us so we understand the kind of data that we're really working with here. All right, so look at what we got back. 103 events in my calendar, 22 people from Gmail, 13 people from LinkedIn. Looks like we're missing some months. So it actually flagged some serious data quality things. Disclaimer, I'm not using my own personal data here. This is generated data. So I'm fine with generally the data quality issues, but obviously if I was doing this for real, I would probably look into some of those data quality issues. But now that we've done that, let's actually move on to the next step. This is like probably the most important step because this is the actual synthesis step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this prompt and we'll read it together. Read my calendar.json, which is my calendar export, the Gmail.json, which is my Gmail export, and my LinkedIn JSON, which is my LinkedIn export. So for every person who appears in at least one of these files, create a markdown file and follow this exact schema, stuff about the relationship, topics we've discussed, strategic notes. Essentially, again, we're creating like a little dossier per person. And what we're going to do is it's going to actually load up in a new folder called people, and then it'll follow this format. Let's see what it comes back with on the other side. So while that's running, I just want to say this. So like what we're generating right now is pretty cool. A dossier per person in our network. And I want to make this larger point. For pretty much all of business history, the most valuable knowledge inside an organization lived in unstructured form. It lived in people's heads, in Slack threads, in the email replies, in the conversation you had on a phone call that nobody wrote down. We call this tacit knowledge, the stuff experienced professionals know but can't quite document. And here's the thing, that knowledge could never be operationalized at scale. The cost of extracting it, interviewing the expert, writing it up, structuring it, keeping it current, was always higher than the value. So it kind of just sat there locked in human heads, walking out the door every time someone quit. What we're watching right now in this video, Cowork reading my calendar, my inbox, my LinkedIn, and writing coherent profiles of every person in my network, that is tacit knowledge being unbundled in real time. For the first time, the unstructured residue of professional life becomes structured, queryable, something you can actually operationalize. And here's why this is so significant. A huge amount of what experienced senior professionals get paid for is essentially being a search interface on their own accumulated tacit knowledge. Oh yeah, talk to so-and-so. They handled that exact issue in 2019. But when AI can do that lookup faster, the value of being that lookup interface goes to zero. The value now shifts to what AI still can't do, which is judgment, framing, taste. The strategic question for any knowledge worker right now is how much of what you do is retrieval and how much is judgment? Because the retrieval half is about to be commoditized. All right, let's see what Cowork came back with. Like it's done. We have 25 people files written. Let's take a look. We can look at a couple of these. All right. Awesome. So we have all of this rich information that we were able to get back from our own data. This is really great. Of course, now you're probably like wondering, so what? Let's move on to our last step, which is actually querying this information, asking questions. So one really good use case for this is to surface any kind of dormant relationships. Maybe people you haven't spoke to in a long time, but maybe people who you had a conversation with that may not have been relevant at the time, but is now very relevant. How do you remember all that? Now we have a tool to do so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this prompt and it's going to say this: read all the files in the people directory, identify people where all is true. We have had at least 3 historical touch points. Last contact was over 60 days ago. We have some strategic notes suggesting meaningful relationship value, and then output it in this format. Let's see what it comes back with. Cool. This actually brought back a ton of people. This is awesome. So now if I am thinking about reaching out to people, now I know where to start. And this tool that I built can help me stay on top of these more dormant relationships and just help me be a bit more thoughtful in just how I approach relationship building in general. So that's only one query that you can run, but once you have this memory built, you can almost ask it almost anything. So let's talk through some examples of what we can ask. So there's pre-meeting prep. Give me 1-page prep doc for the person I'm meeting with tomorrow. There's network mapping. Everyone in your network at a specific type of firm, grouped by company. There's pre-event outreach. Maybe I have a conference I'm going to. Find me all the people at this conference and draft an individual message. There's warm intro pathfinding. This is a big one. What is the strongest path to a specific person I'm trying to meet? Maybe I have a bunch of mutuals. And then just general pattern surfacing, non-obvious clusters and gaps that maybe we might not have noticed. So there's a lot of rich analysis that we could do on our own networking and our own contacts. And again, it really lends itself for you to be more deeper in just how you approach kind of relationship building in general. So we're near the end of this video. Let's recap what we just built. We took our calendar, we took our inbox, we took our LinkedIn data and turned it all into queryable relationship memory. And we did it in one sitting with no actual code. Because here's the thing. The dominant pitch for AI right now is efficiency. AI saves you time. AI does the boring stuff so you can focus on the more interesting stuff. And that is all fantastic. But the thing is, what we just built is not an efficiency play. And if you frame it that way, you'll use it that way and you'll get the wrong outcome. This system isn't about saving you time on relationships. It's actually about putting friction back into the part of your life where maybe you were a bit lazy. Maybe you were forgetting people. Maybe you were dropping threads. Maybe you were walking into important meetings cold. The whole point of this system is that it surfaces the relationships that you may have forgotten and asks you to do something about it. So don't just use AI to send more emails faster. Use it to send fewer but better emails to the right people at the right time about the things that actually matter. Now, if you stuck around till the end of this video, I appreciate you. I will see you on the next one.